It's that time again. It's the Burky and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. It's going to get wild. It's going to get wacky. It might even get a little zany. We're going to talk about board games and the board game industry. And, you know, we might talk about anything else we want to talk about.
Hello. Welcome to the Kingdom of Babblot. Today we have an amazing show. It's an all English show because we have Sir Badger the Brave, who's an Englishman. We have a special guest who is an Englishman, but used to be a Canadian, but we'll call him English because he lives in England. And of course, your king is English, as you can tell by my
babbling.
It's a good accent, right?
Hello? Oh, right. Cockney in pairs. Oh, my God. It's Mr. Van Cleef.
Oh, no, all right. I did it right.
You did all right. Yeah, you did all right. All right.
Stop by for a spot of tea and crumpets. Hey? Awesome. That's the English and the Canadian, eh?
Lemon sherbet.
Oh, sherbet. Lemon sherbet. Father, have you tried the government cheese? Father, were you constipated too, Father?
Look, kids, Big Ben. Hey, kids, Big Ben again.
Hey, we started this baby out off the rails right from the very beginning. So we better get back on the rails because we got a special guest. Barry, tell us what's going to happen in this awesome show.
Okay, in this awesome show, we are going to have a roundup of what's been going on in Babblot, so you can catch up on what we've been doing. And then we're going to do a roundup of rumors in the things that make us go, And then we are going to interrogate our special guest who is down in our dungeon right at the moment, a Michael Dennis. He says,
yes. Michael Dennis from Ready, Steady, Play.
Yes, we're going to be finding out why he's been incarcerated into the dungeons of Babblot. Before finishing off with our Babble section, where we're going to be talking about IPs in our hobby and
IPs.
IPs, intellectual properties, and what are they doing? What are they doing here? Disgusting little things. Scram!
IP, UP, we all pee.
Yeah.
Inappropriate.
If you say so. Hello, Kabuki. Kabuki's in the house.
Kabuki kid, welcome. Oh, we will have all the other people following us in the chat, and we will try our best to get to your comments. So, Barry, tell us a little bit about what's happening in your world of Babblot.
Okay, down in the scummy part of Babblot, where the peasants live, we have been, I've been extremely busy with lots of projects in the pipeline. Music-wise, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I need to do a board game review just to do something different. But yes, I am very, very busy at the moment working on music and sound effects for Lucky Duck at the moment. I've written these initials down and I've made it a game, and I can't remember what they are. I'm also working on an app game for somebody for an app version of a board game. I am also working for a university in another country, which is going to do this big VR thing as well. And of course, the Seventh Citadel. Still working on that at the moment, which is a great pleasure. So I am up to my ears in all that, as well as my Sirenscape stuff. I've been working on some Dragonlance music, as well as I'm doing the Book of Eventide's adventures, as well as the Starfinder's adventures as well. The new Drift Crisis for the RPGRPP players. IP.
Wow, my goodness.
So yeah, I am sat here most of my time at the moment banging out keys and sounds. So
dun, 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 dun.
And luckily my tinnitus is starting to descend little by little, and
that's good.
Yes, it's nice.
Anyway,
that's me.
I can do some shouting if you like.
No, I've got the volume control here, so I can go. I
Oh,
can
off,
even mute you.
off with your voice.
Yes.
Well, I just had the opportunity to get back from BGG Con, Board Game Geek Con in Dallas, Texas. And I got to tell you, what a great time we had. We had a 10 by 20 booth, and I shared it with Rob McBride, our good friend from Scyther Gaming, who does Overbattle, this amazing epic space battle game. But he has this new game called Rise of Kings that has dragons, and he had a great big dragon there that glowed from the eyes, and the mouth breathed fire. Not literally, but it looked really cool. And we had just a great time with our team. Trent Turner and Peter Jovich and all the folks from Meeple Nation that helped us out. Nathan and all the buddies there just did an amazing job helping all the customers. And we had enough people in the booth that I was able to actually go to a convention and actually play a few games. Like, right?
Yeah.
BGG Con is always been one of my favorite conventions. Years ago, when we just started Game Toppers, Scott Alden heard about us. I met him at a layover, actually, at the Chicago airport. Crazy story, but I didn't know him, and I got this chance to talk to him. Before you know, we were talking about this idea I had for Game Toppers, and long and short of that, he bought 32 Game Toppers from us for the hot games room. And
that's more than fingers I have.
Yeah, it's a bunch of them. I mean, the hot games room, you go in there, all the latest games, all the biggest games, they're being played in luxury style on Game Toppers. And I can't express my gratitude to Scott and the team, Jeff Anderson. I went down there early to make a bunch of new packaging boxes for their storage that we had shipped there. And I just had a great time meeting all the backers. Just tons of backers came up to us thanking us for the product, which was really cool. I got to play a few games. I got to play Coloma, which was awesome. Really enjoyed that game. That's a Johnny Pax game. Got to play Call to Adventure with Trey and Mariana Lennox. Really fun little engine building type of adventure type of game. Got to play Campaign Trail from Gray Fox Games.
Okay.
A great big Kickstarter deal. And I got to play a Mosaic. We didn't get to finish, but I got to play it. Anyway, it was run, Bobby, run. And we went out to the Hard 8 barbecue and, stuffed both legs full of as much meat as we possibly could.
As you normally do.
Yes.
You should carry a third leg.
I want one. And we got to just have a great time reconnecting with so many people in the hobby. And Board Game Geek is just one of my favorite conventions. It's a little more low key and allows you to just hang out. Lance Meister, the Undead Viking, was there. And I'm trying not to hear the results of the Buffalo Vikings football game. And I'm on the other side of the screen. And what do I hear? Score! I hear this huge roar from across the vendor hall. And here Lance was listening to the game live, which I was trying not to know about because I wanted to watch it later. And the Vikings, came back to win it. But he was going pretty excited over there, that boy.
I bet he was. He loves his, was it snooker? Was it golf? Baseball? No, can't be that.
No.
Curling.
No. Football.
NFL. Oh, he watches
NFL football.
Oh, no, that's not football. That's handball, that is. Running around with the ball in their hands. Football.
Yeah. Well, you do kick it a little bit.
Okay.
So anyway, it was super fun, and I had lots of beef jerky that I was handing out to everybody that was coming up, and lots of Burke's Happy Mouse signature spice was handed out, and kind of getting back to normal. Now we're getting ready to go to PAX Unplugged, baby. Big show in Philadelphia. I just heard they're maybe going to get 4 feet of snow up around Buffalo, New York. So that's kind of crazy. But I don't want to waste some more time talking about what's been happening in Babblot. But that's what happened.
No, but when you start talking about snow, that's it.
Yeah, I've been moving snow. I plowed snow this morning for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how much snow that is.
I got it.
But anyway, yes. Shall we move on?
Yes, let us go on to the should we do things that make the king go whom, or should we maybe bring our guest in? He might want to comment on this.
Yes,
Section.
Let's
welcome our wonderful guest. And now this is a guest. This guy's up and coming. This is Michael Dennis from Ready Steady Play, and he's English, by the way. He's English, but kind of Canadian, I think. Is that right?
Well, I'm blessed, especially given the situation we have here in England or Great Britain in Europe at the moment, which I'm not going to go into, Burky, because quite frankly, I think everyone's heard enough about it and it's miserable. But I'm very fortunate to have 3 passports, so I'm quite a mongrel.
Oh wow!
Yeah, well, I'm Danish and Canadian and British, so.
Oh, Danish!
You might wonder why I'm still here. I do, yeah.
Bacon blood.
Viking.
Like
I got
Danish
bacon blood twice over. Yeah,
I got bacon blood, baby.
But I'm flattered to be called up and coming. That's very exciting. I have in fact been making board game videos on YouTube for 6 years.
Yes, he has actually a very well established, but he's ready to take trajectory to the moon. This guy is all over the place. I see his stuff everywhere. He's on GridCon and he's on Essen previews, and everybody loves your stuff, right?
Yes, they all love my stuff. Definitely, that's true. But yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about Ready Steady Play.
So it's a channel I actually started 6 years ago when I thought that at the time, and I think there must have been something in the zeitgeist, because at the time it felt like there weren't any really good playthroughs on YouTube of board games. So I started it, and I think exactly the same moment everybody else started it too. So it was originally designed to be this playthroughs channel, but as we started doing it, we realized we kind of needed outlets for reviews and rules and things like that. So I started doing instructional videos on there, and we started doing these rules videos called The Final Thoughts, which were kind of just a free-form roundtable discussion after we played the game. Now we're doing, and so we still do that content, but we're doing a lot more live streams for the playthroughs, and we're doing a series called Played, which is still kind of a roundtable review format, but it's not necessarily stuff we played on the show, but stuff we've just been playing, because we've been playing so many games, Burky. We needed a whole platform just to talk about all these games we've been playing. But yeah, I mean, it's all your good stuff, it's instructionals and reviews and playthroughs and just talking about games all the time. So if you're interested in games, and we don't, one of the things that we've sort of definitely kept for better or for worse is our editorial freedom. So we don't take barely any sponsorships. The only sponsorship we take is for the rules videos. So we're very outspoken about our opinions.
Well, speaking of platforms and sponsorships, I do see that you have a large platform right behind you.
Well, this is true. So I had I was looking for a game table solution for the show, and Burky very kindly offered me this. This is the Moriarty, right?
It's the Moriarty and Mycroft all in one. You can be either or.
Because it's got the inset in the middle, so it can be extended to the Moriarty, or it can become the Mycroft, which is the 4x4. So this is the 6x4 game topper, and Burky very kindly offered this to the show to help support the channel. And of course, when I say we don't do sponsored content, I'm really talking about the video content and our reviews and things like that, or we don't do previews. But this, on the other hand, I'm quite happy to say for the tenure of our working relationship, Burky, that these videos are all played on the Game Topper, and so far it's been excellent.
Well, it was really fun. The first opportunity I got to meet you in person was at the UK Games Fair this last year. And right away when I met you, I thought, I I really like this guy. I saw some of your stuff a little bit before. I hadn't had a lot of information about you, but the more I talked to you and the more we talked and collaborated, I thought, yeah, this is somebody we'd like to support and like to be collaborating with, you know.
Well, thank you very much, and we're very lucky to have your generous sponsorship for the games.
Well, with that, I think let's move into our segment, things that make the king go and we will also get your feedback in this section, Mike.
This is the Board Game News, where King Burky reflects on some of the current things happening in the board game industry. Some may be good, some may be bad, but they're all things that made our king go,
These stings are great, Barry.
Oh, the music is still going in my head.
Yeah, I've still got plasters on my behind where they sting so much.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Is what's stronger, his music game or his pun game? You guys decide.
Well, the things that make the king go I noticed something a little while ago. This actually was in October 19th, so it's a little bit old news, but something that recently happened that made me think about it. The first thing that recently ICV2 reported was that Funko Games had an excess of inventory and that they were now being concerned with many of the larger orders were being canceled by different companies because of overstock. This creates a warehousing problem and or them needing to discount their product to get it out to the market. Okay, that's an interesting story just in itself, because I think there's a lot of supply chain type of things that we could talk about. But what is also interesting, I saw this report from ICV2 saying Hasbro game sales down 23% in Q3. Now, this was interesting to me. It says including all brands, both tabletop and digital, were $509 million. It's a little bit of money. Down 23% compared to last year, according to company's Q3 release. Company's geek brands were areas of strength within those numbers. Sales by Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming segment fell 16% to $304 million from $360 million. Tabletop revenues in the segment were down 9%. But then it goes on and says that the Magic the Gathering releases also contributed down to $256 million, blah, blah, blah. What was interesting, there's a whole article on ICV2. You can just search Hasbro and you can see this article. There was a lot of changes in a couple of their Magic offerings that they think contribute to that. But what interested me, it says the profits in Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming segment were down 36% for $102 million. And then when I see this Funko report, I'm wondering, due to supply chain issues that we've experienced with our company as well, a lot of companies started stocking up a lot of product for fear of not having enough when everybody was running out. So all of a sudden, everybody started stocking up, where we used to employ more of a just-in-time inventory practice. All of a sudden, they're stocking up. And now the demand is lessening. During the pandemic, demand was super high. Everybody was grabbing everything from puzzles to games. The game companies were making record profits. Things were going very well for gamers, game companies or some of them, I should say, during the pandemic. But all of a sudden, things are changing a little. And I'm wondering how all of this is going to impact inventory systems impact the sales of product. And now with the economy, inflation, recession fears, all of these things, that's what made me go, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's right to acknowledge that there was this huge boom in the industry during the pandemic. And so it's, I think, a natural sort of reaction to that to see sales maybe begin to normalize. But likewise, if brick and mortar sales or people that were sort of frontline selling, end distributors were overstocking, then stock may well be an issue. I don't know whether or not we would see some similar patterns in video games. That would be an interesting comparison, because that would tell you how much of this is to do with physical space management. Obviously, video games will not have the same issue, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a decline in their investment as well. Just because I imagine there was a lot more playing of video games during the pandemic, and a lot more sort of engagement in that digital space. What's interesting as well, in the two companies that you picked out there, Hasbro, particularly as it relates to Magic the Gathering, and also Funko, is that both of their main product lines, which is to say the Funko Pops figurines and the Magic the Gathering cards, both of them are highly collectible. And so when you see a flood on the market, people suddenly get a sense that these collectible things are no longer limited, and so they begin to devalue. And so I think that sort of overstocking would have an extra big impact on those product lines.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see Kabuki Kid has a comment saying she was reading how Magic the Gathering took a big hit too and was blamed on glut of product.
Yeah, well, I think there's been a big backlash about this reprinting of the alpha cards. So I'm not fully up on Magic. I only played it, 10 years ago. I played Magic not even seriously. I played it, as a hobby. It's, well, like I took it seriously, but I think it's sort of, when you say I played Magic seriously, there's a lot of implications there that you don't get with a lot of these other game systems. But, I had lots and lots of Magic cards. My friends and I all played it, but they just reprinted the alpha cards in these sets, and they're charging an enormous amount of money for these reprinted alpha cards, which are not ever going to have the same collectability as the original alpha print run. So and they can't be played with illegally in the tournament setting. So they're really just for casual play, and for the purposes of casual play, they're either wildly underpowered or totally broken. So they're kind of pointless for that purpose. So it's kind of like, what is the point of this incredibly expensive print run, other than to sort of cash in on people's desire to own some kind of official product version of these? Yeah,
look at Kabuki Kid said, those 30th anniversary celebration cards are whatever they're like $1,000 for 4 packs. Really?
Yeah, it's really expensive.
Well, she made a comment earlier about pushing profits, and we've seen the price of board games significantly rise, especially in Kickstarters. You're seeing a lot of additional shipping fees because of what's happened the last couple of years. But now we're starting to see some easing in at least the manufacturing shipping to the States. It's better than what it was, at one point we paid $23,000 for a container, and now we're paying about $7,700. But in the past it was about $5,000. But most everything we shipped last year was over $18,000. We had like 8 containers last year, and that was just for the imported product. Everything else we had in the United States, shipping costs were higher likewise. So we had to pass that on to the customers. So you started seeing this inflation. And then I think too, people just, hey, this is what people are willing to pay. People started bumping their prices. I don't like that. I desperately tried not to raise any of my prices, but we just couldn't absorb all the cost of shipping. But I'm wondering if this is all going to start to see a little bit of regression, if you will, in some of these higher priced products and even these super deluxeified Kickstarters, because people's discretionary income may be a little less. maybe companies' inventories are higher and they need to move through that inventory.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much of this is sort of because I mean, I was going to talk a bit about people's discretionary income and how the luxury products that we enjoy in our hobby are sort of the first things that get cut from budgets when budgets are tight. But
As we were saying at the beginning of the show.
yeah, I mean, I mean, I understand that economies the world over are not in a good condition right now, and I think we're feeling that particularly acutely in Britain for reasons I don't want to talk about. But yeah, it's well, what was I looking at the G7's growth rates, and every other country, at least for the foreseeable, not for the foreseeable, but for the next quarter, has some level of projected growth before they might enter recession, whereas we're already well on our way into a deep dark recession here. So we're the sort of the front runner for this new kind of economic climate, unfortunately. But the thing about pricing, like you were saying, Burky, is that it once it goes up, it tends not to go down. But that's also during, I think, times when the economy, when it may not be a direct result of, or rather when there aren't multiple factors going on. So it may well be the case that the one thing that can bring prices down is a lack of consumer demand or consumer engagement. So if people are really having to start making much more strict choices, and companies are seeing their actual sales numbers drop, then maybe those prices will come down to reflect the new shipping costs. I don't know.
Speaking of high-priced deluxified units, Barry mentions that Heroscape is on the shelf again.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that. It didn't get halfway near where it wanted to get.
No, I was watching it with intent because I wanted to expand my Heroscape and have, and hopefully have, new people be brought onto board with this Heroscape. And so, yeah, I was following. Unfortunately, France was not able to participate. They did, during the course of the campaign, open up to other countries like Spain. I don't know what the gaming situation is in Spain, but obviously it's better than what it is in France, which is strange.
That is strange.
Yes, but maybe because they have a better branch there. Could be anything. But yes, unfortunately, they put Heroscape on the Pulse, kind of like crowdfunding on their own site. They needed 8,000 backers before it would be republished. And then hopefully from there, they would start distributing to stores, thinking that it's going to be a good seller in the future. Yeah, unfortunately, I just got over 4,000 backers. And it was just a little bit overpriced, was the main thing which people were saying. So, well,
we
won't be seeing Heroscape for a while.
Yeah, you'll be able to educate us, Barry, because it sounds like you've actually played. This was when I was keeping my eye on, not because I haven't had a chance to play it, and I was impressed with the number of people who had sort of kept the game going and continued to release packs, and understand that the people who were sort of in charge of the fan expansion community had actually been brought in by Hasbro to work on this resurrection of the product. Yeah. So I was interested in that, and anything with a sort of a strong community that, that survives like this is always usually a sign of a decent game with robust mechanics or mechanisms. So I was and something beyond just pure nostalgia. Yeah. But I was interested to keep an eye on it. But and also for the show, I have a good excuse to splurge a bit on these things. But $250 is a huge buy-in for what I understand is a fairly sort of light and enjoyable skirmish game rather than anything more hobby than that.
It's medium weight, but you can dumb it down. That's the thing I love about it. I play it with my kids. We dumb down some of the rules. The actual game itself does come with 2 versions of each of the characters. So you have a basic one where they have these stats for attacking, defending, no life points, and then you have a more complicated one where they have special powers, and then they have different roll dice stats and life points. And again, it's just a infinite create your own scenario based tabletop game with this amazing tabletop presence. 3D terrain.
Yeah. Oh,
And
it looks
It looks
fantastic.
gorgeous. And it's all very logic. You don't need to get a string out or ruler like you do for Warhammer. It's all kind of line of sight with your eye, and you count the tiles for distance. And it's yeah. It should have been 100. There should have been $100 option. Kabuki says, and I agree. Yes.
Yeah, a cheaper option to make it more accessible would have been a good idea. I think, and if it's the cost of the tiles, or like, if I remember correctly, the original distribution model was something like that, a roughly $100 core set, and then you go out and buy all the heroes and things separately.
Yeah, I think it was less than that, actually. I can't remember exactly. I think I paid about 60 or 70 quid in a Toys R Us, and I was like, yes. And they were making losses on the base game, but they were making profits on the expansions. And that's a good model, and it works for other companies, and they should have done the same thing. They should have taken a loss on a big base game and made loads of expansions, which people that already own the game could have just bought the expansions, and they would have had some money.
Well, I'm sure with the success of some of these other larger games, Frosthaven, Gloomhaven, different games that were big dollar amounts that have kickstarted well. I think they thought they could ride that wave and found out that maybe that product didn't quite.
Thing is,
meet
Frosthaven is still riding the wave of Gloomhaven. Heroscape hasn't rode a wave since before Tom Vassell. So
you're excused.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Some things that made us go.
This could really be a much bigger Babble topic, actually. So this is just a small segment. We want to make sure we get on to the game show with our great new guest here, Sir Mike Dennis of Ready Steady Play. But before that, we're going to do a quick sponsorship break with our sponsor, Game Toppers.
Yay! Each button. That one.
Yeah, that one. Not that one. Not that one. There's a video. It goes.
Oh, you want the video? Okay.
Yeah, we want the video. We are a very professional podcast. You understand.
3, 2, 4.
This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
So we want to thank our sponsor, Game Toppers, from the bottom of our hearts. Game Toppers are an amazing company. I got to tell you, they're the best, the bestest of the best, and that's all I can say about it.
There you have it. Those are words from our sponsor. Now on with the show.
On with the show. No, seriously, Game Toppers, we just got back from BGG Con. We are going to be at PAX Unplugged. Right now, you can still late pledge till November 20th and take advantage of 25 unlocked stretch goals and several of the package deals. And these are all going to ship out within the next 2 weeks. Now, when we get to PAX Unplugged, that late pledge manager will no longer be listed. Our web store will be launched where you'll be able to take advantage of some different package deals. We had to make some modifications, but we're going to have a cyber sale, and you're going to see all kinds of information about that. But honestly, right now, this late pledge is some amazing deals. So if you're watching this now and can get in before November 20th, take advantage of it. And we will also be having mats and some demo toppers at PAX Unplugged. We are in the first look area of PAX Unplugged. We've formed a 2-year sponsorship. Many thanks to PAX Unplugged, Chris Whitpan from Game All Night. And now he works as a sales manager for Reed Pop, and Matt Morgan at the company. We worked a 2-year sponsorship where 120 tables have a dual logoed mat from Game Toppers and PAX Unplugged with all the hot games on it. It's going to be awesome. And right next to that area called First Look, you're going to see our 10-foot inflatable board game top hat, a Game Topper top hat above our booth. And we have a 20 by 40 booth where we're bringing all kinds of stuff. We're bringing our sweatshirts and T-shirts and hats, the Game Toppers, Game Topper accessories, and a bunch of mats that you can take advantage of and save some money on shipping if you're going to be at the Philadelphia Convention Center. So check us out at GameToppersLLC.com. Late pledge before the 20th, or see us at PAX Unplugged.
Boom.
There you go. There you go. What
Kabuki
game
say?
is behind the door?
Okay, yeah. That's all right. I'm the one that gets to edit this, not you. So calm down.
You're awesome.
Where is it gone? Where is it gone? There it is. I can have to run away at the same time. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Someone in Babblot has been a very naughty person and been thrown into the dungeons of Babblot. But Burky and Badger are nice people, and they're going to give them 3 questions to try and worm their way out of their prison sentence in What Game is Behind the Door?
Is that Sting again?
Yeah, the music's still bopping in my head.
Oh, yeah. It's because you've got the 12-inch version at home. That's what it is. You got the remix.
Hey, tell our fans a little bit about the game show. We haven't done one for a little bit now, so we've got Mike Dennis here with Ready Steady Play that's going to be able to that we're going to interrogate. But go ahead and tell
Yes.
our fans how we do that.
Michael is in our dungeons at the moment. For a very serious crime of impersonating a Canadian. I was going to say comedian.
Right?
Because he has
Let
no
me out,
Canadian in him whatsoever.
Oh.
And so we've decided that we're going to release him only if he can baffle us with these 3 questions that we have for him. All ball game related. And we're going to start with our very first question, which is done in a 20 questions kind of style. We're going to be asking Michael, what was the last game that he purchased? Burky and I will ask 5 questions each, and hopefully Michael will give us a yes or no answer. And in between each 2 questions, he will show us a component from this game. And so if you're watching the live stream, please guess along. And close down the chat, Burky, so you can't see any responses.
I gotta close down the
No
chat.
cheating.
Okay, I'll put it down.
Ooh la
private.
la. Let's make a deal. Monty, let's make a deal.
Kabuki Kid usually gets it right.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have the YouTube chat up, so I'm only seeing the SteamYard chat. But
Okay, I need to make space for a pen and paper. This is pen and paper time. So,
Pen and
here we
paper.
go.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you guys a freebie right away because I was talking to Barry earlier about this, and I was saying, running the review show, there's sort of the last game I purchased is quite a complicated question for me. So this is in fact a Kickstarter that I backed probably about a year to 18 months ago that has just recently, or fairly recently, arrived. So it's probably
Okay.
arrived in the last 2 to 3 months. Some
Okay.
people might not have their copy yet, depending on where they are in the world.
okay,
But I've got mine, and I've played it a bunch of times, and I'm super excited to continue playing it. So it might well have fit in part 3, but it's going to be used for part 1. I've got something else. For part
wow, he's giving us all kinds of clues. I like this. This guy really wants to get out of the dungeon.
Yeah.
3. Wait, do I have to stump you, or do you get it right? When do I get out the dungeon?
You're trying to stump us. You're not trying to help us guess.
All right. Well, Kabuki Kid's already guessing Flamecraft
don't
and Mind
say it.
MGMT, but those are way off. So
Let's cross
those
that
another freebie for you. Sorry, I'm too helpful. I'm too Canadian. It's part of my flawless impersonation. All right, here we go. This is the first component, guys. Are you ready?
No. We ask questions, and then
We ask a question,
Oh, questions and then components.
and
Okay,
then
very
you'll
good.
show a component. Then we get to guess, and we're trying to stump you. So
Okay.
if you stump us, you win.
Right.
If
I
we
understand.
guess it, we win. And so you just helped us win. I want you to know that. All right. Number 1 question. Is it in the size of a Ticket to Ride box?
No.
Okay.
Okay. My question, because I know it's not Skyrim, but is it a big, this a Skyrim-esque adventure game?
No.
No. Okay. And now we get to see the first component.
All right.
All right, so I've chosen this one for you guys here. I think my camera should be pretty good at zooming in on these.
Ooh.
Okay. It's got a number 2. It's like an 8-sided coin, copper or cardboard coin, I believe.
Oh, you've just got up as well, sir. Lovely. Okay,
Wow.
that looks nice. I am just
It is
trying
indeed
to...
cardboard, by the way. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, it is
Same on
cardboard.
both sides.
He kind of helped us out a little bit, so I'm going to throw a guess out there just for giggles. But I'm going to say, he said it's not like a Skyrim escape, but I'm going to say Mosaic.
No, Kevin, actually. And if you watched my show, you'll know we played that as part of our Kickstarter commentary, and we weren't super impressed with it.
Oh, that's right. I did see that. Now that you say that, with Paul Grogan and you had the broken
Luke
We had
Hector.
Luke from Broken
Hector
Meeple
and
and
another guy.
Mark from Not Board Gaming, yeah.
Yep, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, so that's that. So it's not.
I'm
Mosaic.
going to say it's not Skyrim because I haven't received mine yet. So, question number 2.
I need to get on to Modifius and see if they'll send me one. Skyrim looks really neat, but I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Is this a card-driven game?
Now, that's a very interesting question. I'm going to have to say, yes, cards are a very big part of it.
Okay. Is there resource gathering?
Not in the traditional sense, no.
Okay.
In fact, no. There's no resources gathering.
Component number 2.
All right, here we go. We're gonna do a little. Let's do one of these actually. If I can get my Ziploc bag open here.
Oh, it's in Ziploc bags.
So here we go. Component number 2.
Okay. This looks like kind of like a flaming heart, or it's a 5-sided piece of cardboard, and it's got 2 sides. One side's flaming, the other side is not. So you flip this over for things.
Obviously, a life point token.
Yeah, maybe a life point token. Is this Flamecraft?
It is not Flamecraft.
I have no clue whatsoever. I'm going to say it's not Wingspan.
It's not.
You're saying what it's not what it is.
You guys have narrowed it down to only about 17,000 games.
Okay, number 3 question from moi is this a fantasy theme game?
I'm gonna definitely fantasy themed. Quite a specific subgenre, actually.
Subgenre.
Oh, dearie me. Does this game have the word Valeria in that title?
It does not.
Okay.
I mean, I think I might be painting fantasy as a broader canvas here, so in an effort not to mislead you. It's
Okay.
not Tolkien-esque fantasy, but it's definitely a sort of fantasy.
Okay.
Okay.
Elden
Already
Ring
said
fantasy.
that. Is it possible this is the new expansions for the AEG quest, the Thunderstone Quest?
No, it's not. I promised Barry I wouldn't do expansions.
Okay, Thunderstone Quest.
Otherwise, the last game I bought, which is I think the next category, would definitely have been this one, the new expansion for Caverna. I'm
Oh,
excited by.
So,
yeah, I
component,
didn't know about that.
component
it's,
number 3. Oh, sorry.
He's got such nice things.
What, and you haven't?
Yeah, I got nice things too, but he's got nice things. Okay, so do you have a guess, Mary?
No, because I haven't seen component 3 yet.
Right,
Oh,
component
we need
number
to see.
3.
I should have waited for the component. Doy.
Here we go.
Jump the gun.
Let's give you guys this one. I think we're doing 5 components in total, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
5 sets of
this one
questions.
should be, I think, probably a lot more indicative than what it really is. So, but after this, the components are going to get a lot more obvious. So here we go.
Okay. Okay, it's a little rubber ring instead of the hard plastic ring like on the Simon games.
So it's a game with minis.
So it's got minis. Yep, that's true. So guess it right, Barry.
I don't care. All I want is Skyrim to arrive.
See, it's a Kickstarter.
I can't think of any Kickstarters.
Well, that's actually the clue that's making me think about things because
Yeah.
I know a few, but I don't know.
I'm not
these
I'm not
components.
Kickstarter watching at the moment anymore. It's like I've
So
stopped.
a little tip for you guys as well is that, and you're going to find this is a through line of all of my games here.
Yeah.
But I'm very sort of I've been playing a lot of games for a long time, so the things that really get me excited are stuff that's a bit unusual, a little less well known, offers something odd. You know, I've got to get that novelty on because I've been playing so many games.
Novelty on.
Yeah, either
Yes,
it's a
yes,
mechanism or a
novelty.
setup or a component, something a bit different and a bit exciting, maybe. Although actually, I don't know
Okay.
how much that applies to number 3. We'll see.
My fourth question then is this a European company?
Yes.
Okay, my fourth question is well, there's obviously minis. Is the board made of hex tiles?
The board has hexagonal tiles on it.
Wow, that's a good question, Barry.
Okay, component number 4.
Component number 4. Okay. Let's see.
I always have a
Oh,
hard
sure
time
does.
with these EU offerings. I don't pay attention to all of them.
I don't pay attention to anything. Unless someone brings it around my house and says, let's play this.
I pay attention when they say supper's ready.
Yeah.
All right,
Feel
here we
your
guys.
Danish
How
bacon.
about this?
Oh, look at this. This is a card. He's got it sleeved. And so it's got a really skull ram, ram you. I don't know what that character is. To your clan be true.
To give you guys a sense of the sort of the diversity of this particular component set. Here's 2 more. So to make up for the fact I'm only showing you the backs here, I'm showing you 3 cards, each with very different iconography.
So there's
on the
kind of a
backs as well.
cyberpunk gun or something, and some kind of like a mask or something.
Actually, yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Whoa, this looks cool.
Uh,
I don't know what it is.
okay, I'm going to have a guess at Dwellings of Elvindale.
Dwellings of Eldervale,
No,
which
it's not
actually
that.
is in the background of this very video right over there.
Oh, God. Only a keen-eyed...
Yeah, we
Small
should be
world.
Only
looking
someone
at
who
it.
knew the game would recognize the side of the box there.
Yeah.
I love
just-
Dwellings of Eldervale. It's great. They've got a new
Yeah.
Kickstarter coming up as well, which is basically the same game in space.
Yeah, we did all the mats on their first run for Dwellings, the 3x4 mats.
Yeah, those mats were going for crazy money, Burky. I don't know if you saw that.
I
people went
did.
nuts
They
for
did
it.
it. They're doing a reprint, but they're doing with a different company, so I'm not exactly sure. They logistically, it made better sense for them, I think, where they were getting their game distributed. But Let's see, number 9.
Okay.
Kabuki Kid has guessed. Here's another freebie for you guys. Nemesis. It's not one of the Nemesis games.
Ah,
Okay.
That skull gave me a Shadowrun vibe. Is there a Shadowrun board game?
I don't even know what to ask anymore. Is this over $100?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, for the all-in that I'm showing you here, it was over $100.
Okay.
okay.
Barry, ask about player count.
I'm going to ask about player count.
So the game is now it does have variants to play with odd numbers
But
of players.
can you answer that question with just a yes or no answer?
Oh, is
Yes.
it supposed to be yes or
Players
no?
play.
Clearly, the guy who makes instructional videos hasn't learned the rules of this game.
Okay.
It's very much a team game.
So is this game a co-op game?
No.
No.
Okay, it's not a co-op, but it's a team game. Good grief. We get to see one more component.
Yeah. Well, I've only seen 3 so far. I said component 4 earlier, and I meant component 3.
I'm wondering if it doesn't have kind of a Warhammer gig going on here.
You guys you've seen 4 components, Barry, if you haven't been paying attention.
You didn't pay
The
attention to
heart,
nothing.
the coin, the cards. The rubber band.
So let's show you guys this thing and see if this sort of helps illuminate anything.
Okay, there's okay, I think I've seen this. It's like a monster robot, with the big punching hand with kind of steampunky armor, gears, if you will.
Oh, Bioshock, is it?
It looks very like BioShock, but it is not.
Okay.
All
That would
right.
have been my guess.
But yeah, if you remember the Big Daddy character from BioShock, it's very reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say that it's a new BattleTech game.
Oh, that's a good guess, but it's not correct.
All right. Barry, you can
That
win
my
it
guess
for
would
us.
have been Bioshock. But no.
Barry, you can lose it for us.
I'm deliberately trying to lose it for you. Because it's not Skyrim.
All right. Well, you got us. What is it?
Oh dear. Well, this is. I'm not completely surprised this one stumped you guys because this is an incredibly niche game that really only appeals, I think, to people who are in crazy gamers. It's Guards of Atlantis 2.
Oh. So tell us about this.
So this is a team skirmish fighting game. It's very loosely based on the MOBA sort of video game genre. But it's not based on any existing IPs. And in the game, teams of players, ideally 2v2 or 3v3, I think are probably your best counts, take on the roles of heroes, and you're fighting sort of little skirmish battles over sections of the map, trying to push and pull back and forth between these two thrones at either end. And you can win the game by either killing the opponent's heroes enough so that their team runs out of lives, or by pushing the frontier of the battles into their throne room and then winning again a push there. And there are like 20-something heroes in the all-in box, and they're all very different with different roles and different complexity levels. It's a perfect information game as well, which means there's no luck at all. And so the currency I showed you is actually earned by killing the minions on the opposing side and also the heroes, and it's spent to level up, and that's the only thing that it's used for. But you can the cards are each the abilities of the characters, and so the way a round works is that you play out cards from a hand of cards. You have all the cards in your hand. You program your abilities for the round, and then the characters reveal the sort of the cards one at a time in order, and whoever has the highest initiative on the card they played gets to act first. So it's sort of this element of trying to memorize what abilities your opponents have and have taken into their hand as they've been leveling up, and sort of prioritizing what they're going to do against what you're going to do.
Wow, that looks really cool. Have you played it yet then? Or?
Yes, I've played it several times. I'm not very good at it, but I really, really like it. It's the kind of game that has a really big skill curve, you know, so there's a lot of sort of stuff for someone like me who's deep in the hobby to engage with. You know, I get a lot of replayability out of it because there's all these different characters to explore, and getting better at it is absolutely something you can do as you get more familiar with the game. But it's not something I sit and study either, because it's a perfect information game. A lot of the sort of fun of the competition comes from people making mistakes or not realizing what the opponent was going to do. So I try to sort of keep my skill level roughly equitable with the people I play in real life, so that we can still have good games. But wow. It's a hard one, I think, to get to the table if you don't have a group you think are going to be really into this product, because it's so sort of niche. Like it is a team game, but you're only allowed to sort of discuss what you're going to do after the programming round. So during the programming round, you can sort of a bit like Gloomhaven, very loosely converse, but you can't be very specific. And also the other team can sit and hear what you're saying anyway, so they could use it against you if they're very clever.
Wow,
so
wonderful.
Sort of, yeah, fully cooperative, fully collaborative, but I say fully cooperative, but not fully collaborative, which can leave some people sort of feeling a little like alienated. But if you're into this kind of sort of really competitive thing and you like something you can get your teeth into, it's the best in class, I think.
Cool. Well, let's move on to part 2. What game are you most excited about getting? What's the rules to this one, Barry?
The rules to this one are very simple. He's going to doodle for us. He's going to show us an image. We'll explain it to you podcast listeners and see if you can guess it before we do.
Is this another EU game?
Guys, you're never going to get this. I'm so sorry. I think you might get this because my drawing is incredible. If you guys watched my charity stream last November and watched me play What's Missing from This Picture with the audience, you'll know that I'm incredible at art. And so if you can guess the name of the character in the picture, you'll get the game, but you probably won't have heard of it.
Okay.
All right. Well,
who's this guy?
Oh, who's this guy? He have a French hat on?
It's a fishing hat by the look of it.
Oh dear, I really thought that this looked like an American character.
Okay,
Ned Flanders.
He looks French to me. But you got kind of a Simpsons vibe going on here with your artwork. So I'll try to describe it to the listeners that will listen to this on the iTunes and Stitcher professional audio edit. This is a tree, and there's a great big hole in one of the trees, like
you see in cartoons.
Yeah, like a hole in the tree. And then he's in the woods, and he's standing. He's got a hat, and he's got a goatee and a mustache, and he's got a belt and shorts. He's wearing short shorts. They're about to his knees, so I don't know if he's got sideburns, and he's kind of got a big, long nose.
My take on it is it looks like a cartoon version of a Belgian lumberjack.
Yeah, I was going to say lumberjack. With
a belt as well around the shirt. So it kind of reminds me of Asterix. But yeah, it looks like a fishing hat. He's got like fishing tackle stuck in.
But he's excited about getting this.
Okay.
This game that looks like a guy sitting in the trees. Now, this doesn't look like Robin Hood or anything. He's got a weird hat. It's almost like it's a fedora, but it's almost like it's one of those little Jacques Cluzet French hats, you know. Okay. Yes, the Cité play.
He did say American, didn't he?
Yes, I knew that.
You know that. Oh, okay.
Yes, I knew that. Chief
I'm just trying to
Inspector.
think.
Yes.
No, because that game I played the other day was Irish, about the Irish.
Yeah, that hat doesn't.
Boris. Yeah.
So I promise you guys won't have played this game yet. I'd be very surprised if you'd heard of it.
And he's super
Okay.
excited about getting it.
Okay.
He's just trying to make us not guess. That's what he's doing. We'll not fall for the classic blunder.
Remember what I said, Burky. I'm all about the weird oddities
abstract.
because I've got at this stage I've probably got a really good example of every genre in my collection. I'm looking for something that's a bit interesting, a bit odd.
He didn't have an axe in his hand, so it's not click clack lumberjack.
Jack. No, I was thinking that.
This is a new thing. This is not. This is just something I'm excited about getting.
You're excited about getting, it's a new thing.
But some
new
people are
thing.
excited about Click Clack.
I love Click Clack. Okay, just to be clear, I mean I don't actually have Click Clack, but I do have Bling Bling Gemstone, the follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's great.
So something he's excited about getting. I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't think it's available yet, but I've seen pictures of maybe some people have gotten it. But it's that Miko did the art.
You go where?
Miko, the artist.
Hugo?
Miko.
Oh,
Yeah, not Migo. Miko. It's the Winter Wonderland War. Oh God, no, I forgot the name.
Endless Winter, Paleo
Endless
Americans.
Winter, that's the one.
I do have a copy of that on its way to me, but it's not the game I'm talking about here. I mean, I'm pretty bad at art, guys, but this is not a native Paleo American.
Well, how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know? With
There's no
that kind of
turkey.
artwork? Make it more descriptive.
Yeah,
Draw
I
something
need
else
to,
on there.
I thought this was I guess maybe this is less of a thing than I thought it was in America. I thought that this would be a sort of quite apparent cartoony character, but
that's the
apparently I
Canadian in you coming out there.
maybe. We'll see. I'll be surprised when I out the game. I'll either get an "oh yes, of course," or I'll get it. No, that was totally wrong.
Yeah.
You know what it is, Barry?
No clue. No
Trees with holes.
Well, he's on a walk through on a path. He's going somewhere. That could
Oh,
be
it's
important.
Tokaido.
Oh, it's not, this is a tourist. Come on, do you not think I could have thought of a single Japanese thing to draw in the picture?
Well, there's a path. There's a path.
There are more games about traveling than Tokaido. Although Tokaido Jewel has just come out, it's just been announced, so that would have been timely.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is.
No.
So this is a pilgrim.
Pilgrim. Okay.
Do they not have hats like that and funny shirts and little
No.
shorts?
Well, yeah, the rest of it is kind of pilgrimy, but not really.
Should have drawn a
Oh,
turkey.
Should have drawn a turkey.
Yeah.
Turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you put your hand on the thing and you trace around
Just
it.
draw around.
Or John Wayne. You should have drawn John Wayne.
Now listen here, bureaucrat. I wouldn't push it. Got a touch of the hangover.
So this is my complete inability to draw an American style pilgrim, but the game is called Pilgrim,
Okay.
Pilgrim.
and I just managed to secure myself a copy from their first and possibly only print run of 1,000 games. So
Wow,
I'm
well,
very
tell us about
excited to
it. Who
receive
makes
that.
it and all that?
So this is actually a designer called Nick Case. He's done a few other small games, and this was a Game Found campaign he had, which had about 500 backers, and he's had the game picked up for publishing by Spielworks, a very small, I say very small, a well-known but not large German company who publish sort of older classical games. They tend to reprint things and stuff like that. Of course, these are not exactly American pilgrims. I think these are more generic religious pilgrims who are on a journey. But what the game is it's action, selection, and route building, where your actions are around the outside of the board on these tiles, and the board is this sort of hexagonal route building thing you'd expect to see in like a train game. But of course, the routes you're building are for the pilgrims that you have, which are these little meeples. And I'm just trying to remember that I'm on a podcast, so I have to be very descriptive. And so the meeples themselves are actually going to operate in a mechanism that's similar to a Mancala board, where you drop the meeples into these different pools as they follow the routes around the board. And then the action spaces are going to be resolved based on the majority of meeples on the action board. And so as you're building these routes, there's all this player interaction as you're sort of upsetting the paths that people have been trying to build and inspired to build. And it's sort of like one of those games where everything's going to be, I expect it to be quite tight and quite Euro and quite mean, because you're sort of disrupting other people's plans with this player interaction of setting up the outcomes of these Mancala distributions. So it looks really interesting to me. I haven't seen anything quite like it. It's also apparently got an incredible number of starting configurations. So there's a lot of different seeds you can have for the puzzle, and it's allegedly reasonably short as well. So I'm really excited to try that.
Well, it looks kind of cool. And the pilgrim hat on the box looked nothing like the pilgrim hat you drew.
Well, that's I was hoping that, I think if I drew that pilgrim, it would have been even more cryptic.
I wouldn't have got it. That's true. I would have thought it was kind of a seafarer or something.
So I'm afraid I've answered honestly rather than with answers that you guys might actually have a chance to guess. But
Okay, so we will move on to our third. He has stumped us 2 out of 3 so far, and
but this is a big one. This was huge game. So
huge.
Huge.
So this is the question is, what is your current favorite game? The one you're playing the most, dreaming about, thinking about all the time. So we're going to, Barry, you can explain this, I guess.
Yes. So Michael's going to give us 5 one-word clues. In between each clue, we have a chance to guess. This is down to the wire now.
Okie dokie. So my first clue for you guys, I've started quite general, and they get more specific. So the earlier you get it, the more kudos for you.
Okay.
This one's,
I need
the first
some
word
kudos.
is it's adventure.
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 Now, this is normally your neck of the woods, because you know our guests so well, and you watch their channels and all their videos, and you know what their favorite game is.
Actually, I don't in this situation, because my listening and viewing pleasures are much less now than I used to listen to a lot of shows.
I was going to say, unfortunately for Burky here as well, I'm one of those reviewers who does very long, thoughtful reviews and doesn't do top 10s or anything like that. So, I prevaricate and I have nuanced discussion, and I don't do lists and I don't do scores. So finding out my favorite game is probably a bit trickier.
And he uses big words like prevaricate.
Yeah.
What would you say that we prevaricate, Barry?
Only on Wednesdays.
Yes. What does prevaricate mean?
I couldn't even spell it.
Yes. So.
Postulate is another one.
I would. What was your clue?
Adventure.
Adventure. Yes, I had an idea.
Very
I'm gonna say
broad.
Lord of the Rings CCG.
Oh, that's a great guess. I do love Lord of the Rings CCG, but it's not the one.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say Skyrim, but I'm going to say Gloomhaven for the fun of it.
It's not Gloomhaven either, although 2 strong guesses for the adventure category. Kabuki Kid has guessed Robinson Crusoe, which is also incorrect.
Okay, well, she doesn't get to say anything to us. We've got her hidden, so.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm just giving you guys free information then.
You are.
We'll let her. She can win this. She can win it all. In fact, we do want. Let's look at hers and and let's get an extra player on this game because we suck. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so my second word, maybe this is not specific enough now, but it's fantasy.
Fantasy.
But you guys had already assumed that adventure was fantasy. So maybe that's not much of a clue.
Fantasy.
Oh, Kabuki has guessed LOL. I don't know that game.
I like LOL.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a fantasy adventure. I'm going to say Seventh Continent.
Oh,
Very good guess, but it's incorrect.
Yes, I have very good guesses. Yes, I knew that.
to say Descent.
Ooh.
Now, do you need to pick an
Version.
edition? Or
Oh,
can
we're
you just
on.
guess
We're
all
on right
set?
now. We're on.
It's gonna have to be the 3rd edition, then, isn't it?
The 3rd edition, which is of course Legends of the Dark. It's not
Yep.
Descent 3rd edition.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but it's Descent.
It's not Descent. But they're very different games, aren't they? You know, because the first two are of course one versus many, and then the 2nd edition has the app or the app that came out subsequently, and then the 3rd one's just entirely cooperative app driven.
Yeah.
So
It's trying to throw us off now.
they're quite different games.
Okay, third clue.
The 3rd clue is epic.
Epic.
Ah.
Epic
Which could
adventure.
mean it takes all
fantasy.
day to play, or it has a big scope.
Epic. Okay, I'm going to say Warhammer.
Oh, no, it's not Warhammer.
Dadgummit.
I do love Warhammer, but I haven't played since for probably a decade now. But you know, if you grew up a teenager in Britain into board gaming, then you got to have a Warhammer army.
Yeah.
No. I had the HeroScape army. Not HeroScape. HeroQuest army, sorry.
I had a
Hero
real
Quest.
army.
I'm
I
going to say
commanded
HeroQuest.
thousands.
Even though it's not a really good game, actually.
Oh, Kabuki Kids made a solid guess, but I'm not going to read it out now.
Oh,
I've
well,
been
I can see. I was guessing that one, the Oathsworn.
Yeah, but guess something else, being she guessed it.
All right. Well, I said hero thingy quest.
You said Hero Quest.
Yeah.
It is not Oathsworn or Hero Quest, I'm afraid, guys. I'm going to have to get a bit more specific with these
Okay.
clues. I'm going to bump my 5th clue up and then give you maybe something even better.
Good.
The final clue.
No, they are kind of like all tied in. You could call those the
I wonder
same
if he stumped the
adventure. It's
rest of
always
the
epic.
world too with these crazy nebulous clues. I used a big word there.
Nebulous.
Nebulous. It's not
You
very
can watch it.
long, but it's a big one.
Did you watch Star Trek last night?
No. That's nebula.
Ah,
It's different.
I thought
Nebula
Nebula was Guardians
lots
of the
of
Galaxy.
nebulas.
yeah. I was going to say the same. Guardians.
A really bigly word. Okay.
So,
Number
So
4.
I'll give you clue number 4 here, and this is the clue number 4 is rebirth.
Rebirth.
Oh no.
Rebirth.
It's not Dark Souls, is it?
No. Although there is a new series of Dark Souls core sets coming
Yeah.
from Steamforged, and
Yeah.
that could be something that segues nicely into our next topic. I should save that for the
could
end.
do. Yeah.
Rebirth. Oh, goodness. Fantasy adventure, epic fantasy adventure, rebirth. Epic fantasy adventure, rebirth. Rebirth, epic fantasy adventure. Adventure
Kabuki's
fantasy,
put
rebirth.
Painted Grail, Kingdom Death Monster, Sleeping Gods. She's going for it. She's going for it.
Yeah,
Going for it. I
he's-
think if I had Sleeping Gods, I might have said 1950s or ship at some stage.
All
Maybe
right.
that would be too
Okay,
obvious.
Mansions of Madness.
Nope.
I wouldn't say that was epic.
Nah, I don't know.
Mansions. Some of the scenarios are more epic than others, but it's definitely
Not fantasy.
think
Yeah, those dumb.
smaller. I mean, well,
Okay.
there we get into the definition of fantasy. You know, like for Guards of Atlantis is steampunk, right? Which I would say is
Yeah.
a type of fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a dumb question. Dumb
So,
answer.
This is it. The last word.
Number 5.
Okay, the last word I'm going to give you guys is torture.
Torture. This
Yeah,
is
that's what we're going
torture.
through. We're supposed to be torturing you. You're torturing us.
Yeah, it's got this backwards.
It's,
The
I
king
played my
is-
Uno
the
reverse
king's
card.
mind is melting. torture. Okay. Talisman.
That is torture, but it's not talisman.
I'm going to say Munchkin.
Another good example of torture. But no, when I reveal the name of this game, I think you guys will understand exactly what the meaning of these last two clues was.
All right.
So it is actually, if I got the box, I can't really show you guys the box lid. Maybe I can get it.
Oh, no.
What about if I show you guys
There's not a box with a fox.
You guys recognize, say, this guy here at all?
No.
It looks like a warrior. Is it a dwarf?
He's some kind of warrior barbarian. Oh, he might be a dwarf, actually.
He looks like a dwarf.
He does look like he could be a dwarf, doesn't he? Oh, here's the barbarian warrior type. Very sort of traditional fantasy aesthetic. Very sort of like...
This isn't Conan.
It does look like... That's what I mean by traditional. It does look like Conan, but it is not.
I still don't know.
Kabuki says Dark Dungeons.
Dark Dungeons. No. I actually... Do you mean... No, Darkest Dungeon? Or is Dark Dungeons another thing?
Possibly.
Darkest Dungeon, yeah.
Darkest
Kabuki
Dungeon.
Kids means dark. No, nobody's got
They're
Darkest
both
Dungeon
dark.
yet.
There's dark, and darkest. And they're all very dark.
This is my character, because I'm always the wizard.
Yeah.
Here's the
So
the
is
very traditional
this
looking
Lord
wizard.
of the Rings-ish, or?
It is very Lord of the Rings-ish. Very much inspired by that kind of... It's a modern game that really emulates these sort of traditional fantasy game type tropes. And it is, in fact, Euthia, Torment of Resurrection.
Ooh.
This man is absolutely, totally obscure. Everything he likes.
What do you mean? This is
Totally,
like a $2 million game found campaign.
Where did this thing? I don't remember this at all. Where have I been?
I played this on my channel as part of this. So this was actually a review copy, very kindly given to me by DEIA Games before they went bust. In fact, they spent all of their money delivering this game as part of the Kickstarter, and they sent me the deluxe edition as a review copy, which I was very grateful for because I was quite excited by the game, but I just couldn't back it at the time. And it's actually the original Kickstarter was in a sort of a deluxeified version of a original German version that they'd made, but it came out and then they spent all of their money delivering it. They ran a second campaign which they had to cancel because they just couldn't raise enough funds to keep the company afloat and deliver on it. And then Steamforged Games stepped in and reprinted all the expansion content and the original content and helped support the game because it had such a dedicated fan base. And
I kind of remember something about this now. I mean, this is a while back now, right? 2 or 3
well,
years
this was
ago?
this is probably first or second quarter. I think this is May this year.
Oh, it was. Okay.
May this year that they ran the second kicks, the second 2 game found campaigns.
Oh man.
But
That's too bad.
It's got it can be played cooperatively, it can be played competitively. It's, your standard sort of fantasy, explore the land, defeat the monsters, level up your hero, and it's scenario based, so accomplish the goal of the scenario, which might be to defeat some big old monsters at the end or take defend some position or something like that. But yeah, it's very long. It's a long game. If you're not playing cooperatively, probably best at 2 because you've got these monster fights where the monsters are sort of controlled by your opponents, but there can be a lot of downtime at 3. But it's just very big and ambitious with lots of stuff going on, but otherwise actually quite like it doesn't feel like sort of overly bloated in the rules, or overly complex. But it's also got I think a fair amount of Euro sensibilities to it because there's not. There are some dice, but there's not a massive amount of dice rolling or luck involved either. So,
So is this still available then now with the Steamforged partnership, or is this not available? Or
so I don't know if there's a late pledge currently, but I do think that I don't know how much of it was GameFound exclusive or crowdfunding exclusive, or whether they'll actually be bringing it to retail. But I suspect there'll be a chance probably to get involved before it completely disappears. And of course there'll be stores that back the GameFound campaign as well.
Wow, looks good.
Yeah, we did a full cooperative playthrough on the channel as well. So if you do want to see the game in action, you can come and scope us out playing it.
Cool. Ready, steady, play. Well, with
Yeah.
that, I think we're going to segue into our next topic called the Babble topic. But before that, we want to talk about our other fine sponsor, Arcane Wonders.
Yay!
There's flashing the new logo. Arcane Wonders has been a sponsor of the Burky and Badger Board Game Babble show since we started. Love Arcane Wonders. Very, very close friends with the owner, Brian Pope of Arcane Wonders, and Robert Geislinger, sales manager, president now of Arcane Wonders. They've done some amazing games, of course, starting out with Sheriff of Nottingham, but they've continued that trend of amazing games with their game Foundations of Rome. Foundations of Rome is this awesome auction, city building kind of control type, getting extra points when your commercial buildings are next to other buildings. This is an amazing production. It's super fun and immersive, and you can still late pledge for this game. It's an amazing big box solution. It's some people say it's overproduced. I think it's absolutely perfect. I love it. My daughter Maddie, when she played this, we played the original prototype, and when we got the Sundrop version, she said, "Dad, I think this game is my favorite game of all time." And she plays a lot of games. So love Foundations of Rome. You can still get an opportunity to late pledge. You can also get the Game Topper Roman theme mat directly from Arcane Wonders on their late pledge manager in 2 sizes, and we have it available in our other sizes. You can also catch out some of their other hot games that are available, Picture Perfect and Furnace, and now the newest game, not available in US yet, but it's called Dice Manor that Barry picked up at Essen.
Yes, a dice rolling game where you are trying to outbid the other players to either pay for advertising, which will unlock more dice, or to purchase rooms, which you're going to be attaching to your manor, or using those dice to actually take tours around the manor. All very simple, up to 2 to 4 players. Plays like Vegas Showdown, but with a theme and nice little components as well as dice. Did I say about the dice?
I'm really excited to get it. I was just at BGG Con, and we were trying to get a copy of that here, but they don't have any in the United States.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Family friendly. Definitely good fun.
All right.
Definitely.
Well, with that, we're going to move on to our Babble topic. Check out Arcane Wonders at arcanewonders.com.
And now it's time for the Babble, 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 Burky and Badger's Board Game Babble.
Hey, the Babble topic. So we named
Kevin.
this. What's that?
Yes, that wasn't you guys harmonizing so well, was it?
Babble. We named this episode after this particular topic, and we named it The Name of the Game, and because we're talking about IPs, intellectual property. When we submitted this topic to Mike Dennis, Ready, Steady, Play, this guy, I got to say, he's incredibly diligent, and he put together about 12 pages of notes on his thoughts of, so he's got a lot to say about this, and we're going to allow him to say a lot about this. We have a few questions and things that we thought were interesting topics, but when reading through some of the things Michael wrote, it really expanded what I was thinking regarding the topic, because I was thinking mostly, movie IPs that have been transformed into board games, but there's a lot more to it than that. So we'll explore some of that in the Babble topic here. Barry, do you want to start out with some questions or introduction other than that?
Yeah, I'll start with the introduction because I spent like hours writing 2 sentences.
Many hours.
IPs, whether they're from films, books, or video games, are a big draw to buying a board game or not. With the quality of these titles becoming their own thing and not just a slapped on lick of paint of an existing game, I'm looking at you, Monopoly. We wanted to revisit the subject. Are IPs still a cash grab, or are they something more? Are they
Yes.
something more? Well, I could say, well, I'm going to say it straight away. They are something more now. They are more than just a cash grab, aren't they? They are a big part of the hobby, I would say.
Well, I would hope that most people don't set out to make a game that uses an existing IP, or even just in a broader sense, set out to make a game that's not a sort of a robust and enjoyable product. I guess I'm just not that cynical yet. I'm still a bit optimistic, but I do think like there are two really telltale signs when something is a cash grab, and the first is that it's using an existing mechanism. So, something like your Monopoly retheme, where they've not really done any work on the mechanisms. They've just changed the art and things like that, because that's the quickest way to turn it around. And the other is when the IP is particularly hot in the culture right now. So, when you see something like Monopoly, Guardians of the Galaxy that comes out at the same time as the movie, that's when it's most obviously a cash grab. Whereas when, you see something that's entirely different, like... I guess an interesting example would be something like the Red Rising game from Jamie Stegmaier, which borrows from a series of books that are not very well known and didn't line up with any kind of new version of that that IP, a new release or anything like that. It's clearly sort of something that someone's used because they're a fan of that intellectual property.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there's so many different things. If we're using the question about cash grab, usually that's associated with something that's pretty major, like Marvel or Star Wars or something of that nature, Star Trek. At the end of the show, we're going to actually give our top 3 IPs that we like in board games. So we're gonna explore that a little bit more, but I tend to not.
Sorry to interrupt. I thought that our end was our top 3 games based on IPs, not our top 3 IPs.
Games based on IPs.
Great,
Correct.
Because one of mine uses an IP that I think has been used terribly in games, as well as very well.
Okay. Well, we can talk about the ones that have done it well and done it poorly too, because I agree with you. There's an IP that I absolutely love. That there's some really good games in that IP, and there's some really bad ones.
Well, do you want to save that for the end, or do you want?
Yeah, I think we'll probably save that towards the end. We can explore that a little bit more. Is there currently, Barry writes, have you been burned by buying a game with your favorite IP?
Yeah, I was thinking of like a lot of people were burnt by like the Labyrinth board game. It was just
I remember that. Yeah,
they bought it and it was like the game was really bad, and it was just, well, they got it because they got good minis and it got their favorite characters. And again, I'm looking back at the Evil Dead board game. When I saw it on Kickstarter, I thought, oh my god, the minis look great, but the game looks like someone's just made it up.
Well, that's
in 10 minutes meeting session.
Those are 2 very interesting examples, because of the 2 criteria I outlined just earlier about sort of why a company might lean into an IP. Those are definitely far more niche. Like, just those are 2 super niche things. And given that the game mechanisms weren't especially well realized, it does beg the question, was this a very cynical cash grab to just zone in on a really niche audience? And I'd like to think no. I'd like to think someone set out to make a good game, but maybe because the IP was so niche and they just really wanted to make a good game in this IP that they really, really liked, but they just didn't have the design chops for it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that game that Simon came out with called Wacky
Races?
Wacky Races. You know, it was kind of that cartoon, Dirty Dick Dastardly, and all those cartoons.
That was part of a triptych of games they did based on those cartoons, wasn't it? Because they did Wacky Races, Teen Titans, and Scooby Doo all at the same time. Which are
right.
Cartoon Network.
No, the triptych was Scooby Doo, Teen Titans, and not Wacky Races, but Looney Tunes.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
So it was Wacky
because
Races
I backed it.
So did you back it just because of the IP?
I backed it because it was a Christmas present for my daughter. Hopefully she's not watching. She's a big Titans fan. And unfortunately, it didn't come last Christmas. It's come now. So she got it this Christmas. And she's probably a bit older for it. And she probably doesn't like it. But I added on this Scooby-Doo. And I am a little bit burnt by it because it feels very, very simple. But at the same time, I can see what they're doing. They are basically creating a board game that they can put in a supermarket, in any kind of board game store, and it will sell, and anyone can pick it up and play it because of its simplicity. Maybe it's too simple for me because I'm used to the mechanics like this, and it's like you read the rules and it's like, but there is a game in there. So I'm kind of upset, but at the same time, this is something that I can play with my non-gamer friends. So I'm kind of like half and half burn. And again, it's a stellar production.
But, I kind of think of it in light of the big box stores too. You know, like Target and Barnes and Noble.
We have lots of them here in France.
You don't have Barnes and Noble. Walmart to a lesser degree, but you know, they typically really want to play off of that popularity thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier to convince them that these things will sell if you've got a license tied in, right? Especially a well-known one.
Yeah.
You know,
but these licenses, this is big time money for the publishers, depending on the license. These can be, you know, that's where you see kind of some of these knockoff look-alike themed games, you know, that aren't directly the IP because the cost is really significant.
Yeah. Yeah, well, a really good something I noted down as an example, I think later in the notes was Nemesis, right? The Awaken Realms game, which definitely feels like a mashup of Alien and Aliens, and quite frankly could have that theme and be the same game without it wouldn't need to change a single thing about the rules. So it's very clear that they've said that's the thing we're doing, and now we don't have the license for whatever reason, or we don't feel that's a worthwhile expense, so we're just going to make up our own creature, the Intruder, but it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I could say the same for Alone. Alone is Dead Space, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but, that's another great example.
Yeah.
Kabuki Kid said IP games always were infamously bad for decades, infamously bad. With the occasional rare exception, early exception I can think of is the Avalon Hill Dune game from 1979.
Yeah, that's in my notes as well, Kabuki Kid. And I thought that actually a really interesting sort of piece of analysis, and I don't know if we'll have time to get into it on the show here, would be to look at, say, the June 1979 game, reprinted recently by Gale Force 9. It's exactly the same game. But that's, of course, made as a very niche product. You know, board games at the time, very niche. This board game, super niche because it requires 6 to 8 people, and it's completely asymmetrical, and it's very math heavy. And so it's a big undertaking just to get it to the table. And at the time, based on Frank Herbert's novel, I don't know how big that novel was in 79. I imagine it was fairly big because it was not that old then, but it certainly wasn't as big as the movie is today, I don't think, which is interesting because, of course, June Imperium is a very recent tie-in that's based on the movie June by Warner Brothers and not the book by Frank Herbert. So to sort of look at that game against June 1979 and say, well, you know, so Kabuki Kid says, "Oh, June was huge in the sci-fi world," but I don't know if it was. I don't know how big that demographic would be compared to the demographic for, you know, the Denis Villeneuve movie.
Yeah, I remember it being almost as big as Lord of the Rings, but again, those kind of films weren't possible to be made or put into other mediums at the time. So
Well, that's one of the questions you had in here, Barry. You said, are there any IP rethemed games that are better or worse than the original? That's kind of an example.
Well, I don't know about June Imperium or even June, because June 9th, the Gale Force June reprint was still not based on the movie. It came out before, actually. It doesn't use any of the movie art. But what's a really good example of that would be June House Secrets, published by Portal Games, which they brought out. It's actually a re-theme of the detective crime series, but it's set in the world of June. And I hate to be cynical, but that was a real cash grab, I reckon, because it's using existing mechanisms, right, that they haven't really rethought through. Of course, one of the big selling points of Detective was the Atreides, no, I say Atreides because that's actually June, the Atreus database, I think is what it was called, the website they set up to run that game and really make you feel like a detective in the world of solving crimes. But they didn't remake that website or any of that database for June House Secrets. Instead, it's all in the box there, and it's terrible. it's if you don't know anything about June, it's unintelligible, and even if you do, there's not really any sort of meaningful gameplay there. It's kind of just following along the story because it's set in parallel to the first book, but it can't really use the events of the first book. It just doesn't really have much going on.
Wow.
Okay. Now, I've got a question for you. Do you have any guilty pleasures sat on your shelf? Games with IPs that you don't like, but you're going to keep them because of the IP?
Oh, I'll let you guys go first while I think of I'm sure I do, but I can't think of an example.
For me, it's obvious. It's Babylon 5. I've got the CCG from way back in the 90s, which I've never played because the rulebook didn't make sense to me then. It probably still doesn't make sense to me now because it's all paragraph 1.7.3 to do this and then 1.7.4 to do that. And again, the Babylon 5 Hex game, which I did try playing once. They will sit on my shelf happily. They're Babylon 5. But that's it.
I'm as you guys know, or a lot of you know, I'm a really big Star Trek fan, and I have one of the Star Trek: The Next Generation VHS games.
I have that as well.
Wow.
It's got that picture of Gowron on the front. Kapla. Yeah.
Kronos. Yes,
Yep.
I have that, and I play that, actually. I like that game.
I need to play that game. We haven't actually played that game, but I found it, and I had to have it.
I have it, the VHS video game. It is cool. I've got it converted onto DVD, so we put it in the DVD player and play along. But it is fun.
You are now in a stasis field. The player who is moving now.
I haven't heard of that one, but that's I love Star Trek as well. And actually, my example, just looking around my room here for a good one, was going to be, I don't know if, Dark Souls is not a good example, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But Star Trek Fleet Captains would probably be my example because it's not very well balanced. It's kind of overblown. It's a pretty heavy teach for a game that's otherwise completely random. Ooh. But I really it captures the sort of like Ascendancy for me felt a little too much like 4X, which is not what Star Trek really is, you know. Ascendancy really seems to be about sort of expansionism and conquest and warfare in a way that 4X games are about that kind of capturing of stuff. Whereas Fleet Captains really is about just randomly sort of falling up onto things, you know, and seeing what happens, you know, and dealing with these random events that come up, which feels very Star Trek, you know, and it's just about sort of exploration. The objectives are kind of just, you know, capture tiles by sort of putting out like exploration tokens. You know, I came here and I saw something, you know, and you can also earn victory points by fighting other ships, but you're going to be much better at that if you're the Klingons. So the Klingon players enticed to be more aggressive, or the Dominion player, or actually pretty much everyone but the Federation. But, you know, it captures the theme of Star Trek very, very well. So I really like that game. But yeah, it's a bear to teach, and it takes a really long time, and there's basically no sort of meaningful strategy. It's just kind of muddling along, and random stuff happens. If you get the Tribble card, you're really in trouble. Like, you know, and that could just happen.
Burky's going to unsubscribe now to your channel.
Well, we'll probably talk about that a little bit more here because, in fact, maybe we can. You've got a couple other questions here. Do you think IP games are changing the landscape of board gaming?
Well, you know what? We look at Board Game Geek right now, and we'll scroll down it, and
Yep.
we can probably see that it is changing the landscape because there are so many titles on here now in the top 100. There you go. Number 1, Star Wars Rebellion at number 8 on BGG. Perfect example. It's Star Wars, and apparently it's a good game. I haven't played it. Have you?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, yeah, it is awesome. I actually made a list here, Barry, of all of the top 100 games and what they were based on. So there are 18 titles in the top 100 that are IP based. To some
Okay,
degree.
18 out of 100.
But this does include Scythe because it's based on the paintings of Jakub Ryskalski.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know, if you remember, Jamie Stegmaier saying, I designed this game after I saw his pictures of
Yeah.
sort of mecha, World War II mecha imagery. So I don't know how far you want to extend this IP thing, but I also can't think of any other games.
It's
based
kind of
on
obscure
artworks.
IP, that though.
It's very obscure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you could say that, you know, a painting game like Pastiche could be based on the works of Van Gogh and everything else. But yeah, I was trying to think of more kind of general IPs that everyday kind of IPs that we see. Again, Dune is at number 15, Imperium.
Yep, you've gone right over number 11, War of the Rings Second Edition.
Yeah.
Oh,
War of
yeah,
the
yeah.
Rings.
I missed that, did I? Oh,
Yeah, Battle of the Five Armies.
I
No,
don't
it's
think
at number
that's
10
in the
now.
Top 100, did it? Oh, number 10 now. So this is literally yesterday I made this list.
Yeah,
and it's
someone else
changed
liked
already.
it. Yeah.
Incredible.
Dune Imperium's up there.
Yeah. And then you have Arkham Horror, which is based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. And there's quite a few Arkham Horror games in the top 100 as well.
Oh, there's a lot
That's-
of HP
that's
Lovecraft
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cthulhu's a really interesting one because I think that as an intellectual property has really become a lot more well known.
Well, it's come
As a
public
board game
domain now,
property.
isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is public domain, and of course, I think its primary popularity comes from what FFG call their Arkham Files series, which is all the games they make set in that world, and which have effectively generated their own mythos now. You know, like people get a new Arkham Files game and expect to see the characters they know and love from that universe.
Yeah.
Even though none of them are actually from H.P. Lovecraft's work,
Yeah.
or very few of them are.
Yeah. 47, Mansions of Madness. So another Lovecraftian. And then we have 57. There's Star Wars Imperial Assault, which is a slapped on theme on an existing system, Descent.
Yeah, that was Descent rethemed as Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. But it works. It works.
I mean, I think I haven't played a lot of Imperial Assault. I know that there were sort of two general approaches. One was the story mode campaign, and the other was as a sort of a skirmish head-to-head game. And I know that the people that played this sort of intended one versus many story mode campaign said that the opponent had to act more as a sort of a curator or a dungeon master, kind of caring for the story and trying to create moments of drama, rather than just playing an adversarial sort of full-on skirmish opponent trying to win the game that way, because, you know, the rules were a bit futsy. But, I mean, that's fair enough, because Descent 2nd Edition had that exact same problem.
Yeah. Yeah. We have Robinson Crusoe, Adventures of Paris Island, based on the books.
Yep, another IP, royalty-free IP.
Yeah. Battlestar Galactica, and more Cthulhu, and more Lord of the Rings, and more more Cthulhu.
Yeah,
There is
there's a
quite a
lot
lot.
of Cthulhu. Well, Cthulhu is like it's become sort of a very well-known
The zombie.
board game IP. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the zombies of this century.
Yeah, I noticed that Kabuki Kid said Lords of Waterdeep has that D&D. I'm not sure if that's a licensed unit or not.
Oh, it is. Yeah, Lords of Waterdeep is official D&D game
Okay.
Waterdeep is a town in the Forgotten Realms, and it uses all of the sort of the D&D iconography and elements from that. So I mean, and that's sort of an interesting thing, because of course that's a game that's based on a role-playing game, which is not really that dissimilar from a tabletop game or a board game. And to an extent, you got another interesting one there is Android Netrunner, because that was of course based on Cyberpunk 2020, because when it came out in the 90s, Wizards of the Coast owned both Cyberpunk and Netrunner.
Okay.
But it wasn't like an officially licensed thing. But when FFG bought Netrunner, they based it on one of their own board games called Android and started to flesh out their own IP, even though and retheme it around their own proprietary IP. So that's like another that, and it's sort of interesting, because I don't think people have the same reaction when they see something like Lords of Waterdeep or Android Netrunner, where the IP is a sort of something that's existing in the hobby already and very closely linked, as opposed to when they see it, based on Horizon Zero Dawn or something based on some big video game or movie.
Yeah.
I was thinking mostly like movie type of pop culture IP versus video and books and things like that. But I noticed a few things that you had written in your notes about video games, and that made me think twice about the importance of the video game industry and how that interacts with the board game industry, because there's some big titles there. I remember when Mechs and Minions came out. That was a really a well-produced game that was pretty well received. And Riot Games, of course, the big IP with the actual video game. But you've listed Dark Souls, the board game from Steamforged game.
Dark Souls versus Mechs versus Minions is a really interesting case study of sort of IP and the way IP from video games influences board games. Because I think one of the main points I was making with my notes there was that when they borrow an IP from, say, a movie or a book or something like that, they're borrowing like the world and the characters. And, if they're doing Lord of the Rings, you might expect them to do an adventure game like Journeys in Middle-earth, or you might expect them to do like a big war like the War of the Ring, because those are elements of the books. But otherwise, they're kind of freely open to interpreting the game mechanisms in whatever way they think best furnishes the exploration of that story. Whereas in a video game, the video games have game mechanisms already, and a lot of them, and probably even more than you can feasibly realize in a board game. And what you see in Dark Souls, which is the Steamforged game, is them trying to really capture all the mechanisms of that game. So the game is very grindy, just like the video game, for example, to its detriment, unfortunately. But
yeah, I would agree.
The Mechs vs. Minions is set in Runeterra, the world of League of Legends, but has almost nothing mechanically in common with League of Legends at all. So they've gone and borrowed their world and their characters, but they've left the mechanisms of the actual game behind. And so that's kind of a really interesting thing, particularly because they didn't even decide to call it League of Legends Mechs vs. Minions or anything. It's almost like they were trying to avoid their own IP.
Yeah, and yet they marketed it heavily to that audience, and a lot of their success, I think, it had the crossover in the board game market, but the sales of the game were really brisk with their own, fan base.
And that's, I think, a luxury afforded to a company that's publishing their own board game, right? Riot Games, of course, the makers of League of Legends, also published the game, whereas quite often these like Steamforged games are not the people who make Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Whose name I've forgotten.
I know a company that's doing an IP, and they've developed the mechanisms so that it fits the world, but it's a huge IP, and this is going to be coming out in the near future. But it was very important for them because they wanted that IP, because that environment of that IP is so immersive, and they wanted the gameplay to be likewise representative. And so, personally, I think, all of us, if you're making a game, you want it anytime you make a game, it's a cash grab. You're trying to make money. You're not trying to lose money making a game. The publishers don't do this for the fun of it. But I think most of them are really generally want to make a good game. Whether they achieve that can be debated, and that can be subjective. But I think generally
having the IP makes it an easier sell. So yeah, you could design this game and then it fits this IP, and then it's just like the icing on the cake. If you've created a great system, a great mechanics, and the play testing, your demoers have really enjoyed it, and just calling it something which everyone is on the tips of everybody's tongue is just going to help you sell another couple of thousand, which is great. But then it's a case of paying maybe 1,000 or so to get that IP. So it's an tug and pull.
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting sort of question about how easy it is to get IPs, and I suspect the answer is it's an extremely broad scale of how willing people are to let you engage with their product in that way. And a couple of good examples actually of this is the game Ghost Fightin' Treasure Hunters, which is a board game based on Ghostbusters, and they never got the license, but later when they re-released it, they actually did get the Ghostbusters license. And so then they just put that on there. And the other one is Cash and Guns, which was originally designed to be a Harry Potter game, but they couldn't get the Harry Potter license, so they made it a Mafia game. And this year, the publisher, which is... I can't remember. It'll come to me. But they've released Stupefy, which is Cash and Guns Harry Potter.
Okay.
The same designer. It's the same game.
Huh.
They finally got the license. So I think there are plenty of licensed games where people wanted to make something in a universe that they love. And that's, I think, something that you're really looking out for when you get into a licensed game. And I think that's kind of maybe one of the reasons why, I think that's one of two reasons why they have a bad rep. One is because you do see so many, Harry Potter monopolies or whatever, and it's just very cynical. And then you see a lot of labyrinths where it's someone who had exactly that motive, I believe. Again, I'm being an optimist here, but
yeah, or Fergus Falls Monopoly.
But you got your Labyrinth as well, where people were wanting to make a game set in a universe that they love with characters that they love, but they just didn't have the design chops for it. Maybe it was their first design or something like that, and they just knew that they wanted to play in that world, but didn't really know what to do with it. And as a result, it was just kind of disappointing.
Yeah. Well,
I think also the expectations are easier to. It's easier to disappoint when you've got an IP, because like you said earlier, have you been burned by something? Well, we feel those burns more because we're more excited for something that's based on an IP we really love.
Yeah. Well, we're running a little short on time. I think we're going a little long, so I think it's probably best to wrap up the Babble topic and just go into our top three, and just briefly, we can each go through them. We'll go in order. Barry, you can go first. I'll go second, and we'll end with Michael, and we'll do that 3 times.
Okay. So my number 3 for IP game would be the recently released The Thing, the board game. It captures the paranoia. It is a bit clunky because of the different phases, but it is the thing. You're basically trying to repair the station, and you don't know who's real human and is going to help you, or is just going to go in the room with you and turn you into a thing. So that's my number 3, The Thing, the board game from Pendragon.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, my number 3. It's kind of hard for me to rank them, actually, but I think I would probably go, because of the amount of the games, I'll probably go with Battlestar Galactica. I have the Battlestar Galactica and the Pegasus and the, oh gosh, I just lost it. The extra expansion. Pegasus expansion, and what's the other one?
Starbucks wonderful money bucket thing. I don't know.
I have all the expansions for Battlestar Galactica, and I love the movie and love the old ones and the new ones. And then when the game came out and that hidden trader mechanism, I generally don't like co-ops, but I love the hidden trader mechanism in Battlestar Galactica, just like in Shadows over Camelot. That's when I do like a co-op game, when they have something that just is a little bit of a twist. And so anyway, that would be my third.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have the same problem as you, Burky. But to avoid duplication, I guess my number 3. Actually, I think it was gonna be Fleet Captains, but do you know what? I just remembered how painful it is to teach that. So I think actually I'm going to bump it for the Bloodborne board game from Steam.
Oh, okay.
And this is an interesting one because I've not even played the Bloodborne video game. But I played this with my friend Chris. It's cooperative. We played a lot of it on the channel, and it's just really good fun. It's just sort of a really fun, light, cooperative sort of hand management fantasy fighting game with this really interesting dark fantasy theme.
All right. Barry, number 2.
My number 2 would be Fallout Shelter. Talking video games. This captures the app version of the video game spin-off down to a T. It's worker placement, which I like, but it's a little bit light for me. It needs more to make it more replayable, but I still love playing this game. It's simple. Having rad scorpions turn up and have to clear them off your floor and stuff like that. But yeah, my number 2 would be Fallout Shelter.
All right. Well, my number 2, and I had a hard time because I really have four, and I left one off, and it's probably not fair, but I went with Lord of the Rings over Star Wars. And the reason is because there's a couple games in the Lord of the Rings that I just adore, and it's the War of the Ring and it's the Battle of the Five Armies. I've played a little bit of the CCG game. We played one of the Adventures of Middle Earth with Paul Grogan actually a few years ago with the app. And I just love Tolkien, and I love those big immersive epic games like that. And I grew up playing those Milton Bradley big epic area control type of games too. And so I just love that. And for that reason, I went with Lord of the Rings and those games.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings as well. So it's rather surprising I haven't got one here in my top 3. But again, possibly just because I'm thinking more about stuff I can get to the table easily.
Yeah, that's the problem.
War of the Ring, it's fantastic, but it's hard to find a day to play it when somebody knows how to play it.
It's true. It's true.
But I do love War of the Ring. I'm a little more mixed on Journeys in Middle Earth, and if you want to come see me rage at Journeys, come on, see my live streams of that. But I do want to love it, and I do have it all. So, but my second pick actually is it's a tie between the Mansions of Madness 2nd edition, because I do have very fond memories of playing that, and I do like it a lot. The Cthulhu sort of investigative stuff, and the app-driven stuff in the game is very well done, and my partner likes that, so I get to play that a lot with her. But I think it's recently been supplanted by Cthulhu Death May Die, which it's sort of similar kind of feel, but just much quicker and more, and there's dice chucking is very exciting. But I don't know if I once I've played that as much, if I'll go back to the original Mansions. They're very sort of different kind of games. Mansions much more narrative driven. Whereas Cthulhu Death May Die, it's almost a spoof of the genre. It's just shooting monsters. But it's really good fun. So some Cthulhu miniatures fighting, cooperative fighting games there.
Yeah, cool. I presume Mansions would have been on my list, but I haven't played it enough to justify it being there. So my number 1 is pretty obvious. It's Batman Gotham City Chronicles. Played this game to death. It's Batman. Well, it's Conan with the Batman theme slapped on it, and it works. I love it. The characters feel like the characters. I love the mechanisms because it's push your luck at the same time as recalculating your luck, and this semi-cooperative, where you've got the heroes against the villain, or you've got the one-on-one. It's a nightmare to set up, but once you get playing and you remember all the powers, it's a blast. It's a blast.
Batman.
Yeah, do you have the? Is there an Adam West miniature for it? Perhaps there must be.
Well, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but my number one is absolutely Star Trek. There's lots of different Star Trek games. There was a deck builder that I didn't think was very good, but I still liked looking at the cards. But when Star Trek Fleet Captains came out, I thought, this is Star Trek. I just loved that game. I agree with you, Mike. It's a challenge to get out to the table. It's difficult to teach. I don't know that it's the best game in the world, but I still really liked it. But when Star Trek Ascendancy came out, oh my goodness, I just felt like with all these different races, I've got all of them. I've got the androids. I've got the Ferengi.
Quark, these tube grubs are chilled to perfection.
It's on. I mean, I'm in. And, the board, we played the board expansion. With my son and I, and you got that third element there where you're trying that extra tension, the miniatures, the art, everything about it to me this is by far the best Star Trek game I've ever played. I loved it. I've got it prominently displayed. It's in my top 10 of all time. And I love Star Trek. I can screw around with all the references and talk about all that. So I can do that a little bit with Star Wars too, but it has to be Star Trek for me.
Fair enough. Like, I'd play Ascendancy any day. I think it's great.
With someone that knows the rules.
Well,
no, I think Ascendancy is a lot more intuitive than Fleet Captains.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Fleet Captains, it's a little.
And
bit
your last one, Mike?
My last one, actually, it's going to be a Star Wars game. So I grew up on the original trilogy. I love those movies. I've lately gone a little off it, but I still love those original three, and I'm very nostalgic about them. And this is actually Star Wars X-Wing the Miniatures game.
Oh.
So if you guys haven't played this, it is so thematic, and it's so much fun. And I haven't actually played it since they released all the prequel ships and everything, but I played it probably for about 4 or 5 years from roughly its release up until they just brought out the second edition. I played a little bit of that, but it's just so much fun. You program in the maneuvers of the ships. There's this whole sort of physical element where you have to be able to eyeball the maneuvers. The ships follow these templates on this completely open map, and then and it's simpler as well than Star Trek Attack Wing, which is very similar if you're familiar with that. But there's all this sort of secret maneuver planning, and then you reveal all the maneuvers, and the ships move in initiative order. So you're trying to predict what your opponents are going to do, and you're trying to line up the front of your ship so that you've got them. And when you just line up that perfect shot, you get to chuck a bunch of dice, and it's just really exciting. It's a fantastic sort of realization of space dogfighting.
It's beautiful.
No, I agree with
the
you.
miniatures are great, yeah.
My son Josiah, I don't know if you know this, but he was the youngest Star Wars Armada world's champion.
Oh,
and so
fantastic.
he's actually runs the Vassal site, and he won the national tournament a couple years later at Gen Con and went to, so he's big into that, but he played X-Wing before that with me when he was younger. And Star Wars Rebellion's amazing. Kabuki Kid mentions Outer Rim, which I love that.
That's actually a great example as an answer for guilty pleasure earlier. That's still on my shelf. I just got the new expansion. Unfinished business.
I just got the expansion too and haven't played it.
I really dig it, but I don't know why, Burky. It's the downtime's horrible. You can't play it as more than 2, really. It's a clunky game, and it's pick up and deliver, which I kind of hate unless there's something clever going on.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know what's going on with Outer Rim, but for whatever reason, I've kept it around and I still enjoy it.
Well, Josiah plays a lot of Star Wars Legion also up in Fargo. He goes up and paints miniatures and all that kind of stuff. And I'm, what was that game? Queen's Gambit years ago, that hard to get game.
I've got that here. I don't know if you can see it. Probably not.
No, can't see it.
I have on top of Blood Rage
because that's like a Grail game.
Can't see it. Yeah, I've got it. It's great. It's fantastic.
Star Wars Risk.
Nobody gets nostalgic about Queen's Gambit though. It's based on the first prequel movie. Like
right.
It's because it's Rob Daviau and it's a decent game and a real oddity. That's why people like it.
Well, IPs and games. In my opinion, it's a good thing. The more the merrier. It's nice when they develop them well. I mean, none of us want to have a cheap, a poor gaming experience with an IP, but there's we didn't talk about Marvel either, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there. But
oh my God,
yeah.
Well, we could spend a lot more time talking, but Mike, hey, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Just real quickly, let everybody know about Ready Steady Play, how they can get a hold of you, where you're at and what you're doing.
So the best thing to do probably is just to come to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ready Steady Play on YouTube. It's pretty obvious where to find us. That's pretty much everything we have goes up on Ready Steady Play. And yeah, we're a bunch of sort of rogue independents who just play games and stream things and, deliver content. But if you're into reviews and you want to get some good, honest feedback about games, the Final Thoughts and the Played series are the videos that you want to be looking at.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to all the collaborations and the future connections we'll have with you and your channel. And we're going to be back at the UK Games Expo, so hopefully we'll be able to hook up and go out to eat and play some games.
That'd be fantastic, Burky. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you guys so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Barry, you can let people know where they can find us and send us out.
Yeah, you can find us on all the streaming services for podcasts like iTunes, Stitcher, and of course Libsyn. You can also find us on Board Game Geek on the Guild 2248. And you can find us on his website, which is boardgametheater.com, and my website, boardgameseverybodyshould.com. And there you have it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. And leave us a comment. What's your favorite IP game?
Yeah, we'll probably put something up in the poll on the Board Game Geek Guild 2248.
2248. Okay.
2248. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us live. Kabuki, Tim, thanks so much. And love to check in with you in a few weeks when we do a Woods of Evergreen.
We're so glad we had this time together. And now it's time to go. It won't be long until we have another show. So keep us in mind, get online. Burky and Badger will be back in no time.